What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
Does your book, film, resource, product, or business change people's lives for the better? Hi, I'm Jackie Lappin, founder of Conscious Media Relations, a unique boutique PR firm that helps you connect with your mind, body, spirit, and conscious lifestyle audience in a big way. We reach 3,500 specialty media and all the key mainstream outlets in the United States. I invite you to explore our radio media tour that connects to 2,600 personal growth radio shows. There is just nothing else like it. Come check out our website and read our rave reviews.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online, you're now watching the UK's only alternative late-night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Tracy Ash. Now, Tracy is an international author, visionary life purpose facilitator, ancient knowledge wisdom keeper, awareness and awakening teacher, and an earth power site expert. Now, Tracy is a master of meditation, awareness, and transformation. You could say that Tracy is a master high frequency magic creator. Now, she hosts cutting edge meditation, awareness, and transformation programs, spiritual self-mastery, and mindfulness consciousness retreats and expos in the UK, Europe, Egypt, Japan, USA, and many more. Now, Tracy believes that we can all change our story and our world. Tracy joins us to discuss her book, Ancient Egyptian Celestial Healing. Tracy Ash, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is fantastic to have you on, and today we're going to be sort of concentrating on your book, Ancient Egyptian Celestial Healing. Now, how long ago did this book come out? Is it just a couple of years old?
No, it was released in April, May, so it was ready this summer.
Right, yep.
But it was a combination of many years of work and research, and also working with people as well.
Yes. Yes, I can imagine. I can imagine. Now, your background's really quite varied and interesting. Actually, I was just saying that before beginning this interview. Um, Now, it all seems to have changed for you, and if I might be right or wrong here, it's since 1999.
Yes.
What happened to you in 1999 then, for you to go on this path, which led eventually to this book and a previous book as well?
Well, I was really fortunate enough. I've always been fortunate enough within the context of my journey to be mentored by some really amazing people. And in 99, I was invited to work at the College of Psychic Studies in London by a fantastic president called Susanna McInnery. And she saw that I was working in a unique way and really working between right left brain. And she offered me a contract at the College of Psychic Studies before I'd finished my training. And then I went on to pioneer work, especially for under 35s. And at that time, the term indigo or indigo adult was very rarely used. And I actually entered into work which was about working with a generation of pioneers in many, many different fields. Um, so my life changed, and I was handed a contract at the top. The College of Psychic Studies was at the top of its game at that time. And I was wholly supported, and my work has developed over those 15 years. I remember I sat in my first mediumistic circle when I was 17, so I've always meditated.
Yeah.
I've always explored human consciousness. It's my main area of interest, and how we can improve who we are and advance humanity, contribute to humanity as well.
Okay, okay, so we're ebbing here towards 1999, but as well, just tell us some of your gifts, and what are some of your gifts as far as you understand them to be?
Okay, so I am a very well trained sensitive or channel. I have also trained in trance mediumship as well, energy technologies, energy healing technologies. I've trained in shamanistic work. I'm an ancient wisdom keeper as well. I immerse myself in the knowledge and the ancient sites of Egypt maybe 4 or 5 times a year, and I listen and I look at the stories that are encrypted at the sites and written into the sites for us to pick up now as clues for the next evolutionary phase of humanity. I'm super fortunate enough as well to have several schools which are placed in Japan and in Europe and also Egypt. So my work is extensive. I often reach maybe 100 people in terms of my schools. So I trained awareness teacher, psychic, sensitive, intuitive, whatever you want to call it. I also work with training people in the ancient wisdom traditions of ancient Egypt. And I do a lot of work around earth power sites and also planetary healing as well. So I'm a facilitator, a catalyst within the context of individuals. My other expert area is life purpose. And it fascinates me as a sensitive, as a channel, to be able to read the history and the patterns and the frequencies that are connected with the stories of an individual's history. And then how one can read what happens when one enters into a high frequency purpose. So I stand for much more than an individual who would work with traditional psychic or mediumistic work. I love traveling through an individual's destiny and the lessons of each individual's lifetime, and how that takes them into a place of peace and harmony and sovereignty. And when we take people to that place, then that's when individuals really do contribute in the communities they live in, and they are free of the toxic stories that they have perhaps inherited or the constraints of society as well. So in terms of my work, I'm a catalyst. I love working out how we can bust conspiracy theories and how we can outmaneuver elite power structures and how we can define our lives in a far less conventional way. I love it when I work with individuals in terms of conventional roles, and then they come into a place where they can really contribute in a corporate environment or a business environment. So I bring spirituality totally alive, and I make it real in the day to day. One of the other areas I work with is also love and relationships, and I love the next evolutionary phase in terms of how that brings us into a deeper understanding and wisdom of the essential quality of love that's required on a day-to-day basis, on a political level, on a humanity level, on a deeper relationship level as well. So the work I do has many, many strands. The key focus of it is positive change. I love seeing individuals become better people. I love giving individuals the simple answers to their lives, because we have everything under our noses. Spirituality isn't a kind of complicated question. It's something that's so simple because life mirrors exactly who we are every minute of every day if we wake up, and that's another part of the work that I do. So I kind of multi-straddle many different areas, and I just love the work that I do. It's immensely important for me.
Yes,
Be
yes,
active
yes,
in terms of the change that we need to see in the world today.
absolutely. Okay, well that's very interesting. And are these services available on your website?
They are. I do everything from training, so schools, I do one-to-ones, I do retreats, tours for individuals who really want to work with me with the ancient knowledge of Egypt, or at other earth power sites. I've got retreats coming up in Okinawa with the submerged ocean pyramids of Japan. I've got retreats at Mount Fuji, retreats coming up in Europe as well. So there's many different locations, there's many different types of work that people can access with me, whether they want a little or they want, the next paradigm of training in terms of spiritual work, meditation work. And I think the key with my work is that it's super practical and hard hitting within the context of everyday life. So it keeps people very, very stable, which is exactly what we need. And it takes us away from, the kind of flaky meditation work that isn't hard hitting, which doesn't create the change that we actually dream of.
Okay, and what influenced you to get to this point where you are now? What early influences, in particular, authors or work that helped you to progress to where you are?
I was immensely fortunate. I managed to catch and work with some of the finest mediums of last century. And when you work with individuals who have 60 years experience, you know that they're the real deal. And so Ivy Northage was one of the finest mediums of last century in the UK. I've been totally inspired also by Shirley MacLaine in terms of her frontier work on human consciousness and the way that she led the way in terms of the New Age in a very intellectual and serious way. In terms of what I set for myself, I've equally been inspired by the clients who present themselves with their questions and the perplexities on life. So it's a mixture of being totally committed to excellence within the context of my own standards.
Yeah.
asking my own questions, consistently asking the question about what delivers great healing, what delivers a great reading, what delivers change, and being really immaculate about energy work, because energy work and fine consciousness work delivers the awareness tools, delivers the transformation and the peace, the resolution that individuals need so they step into far greater freedom. So it's been a mixture of my life experiences, and often challenges actually show you the way as well. So I've had near-death experiences, which has pushed me further towards what I need to do today. And of course, so much of my inspiration comes from Egypt and my love for traveling and working at sites.
Yes, and I want to get into that as well. Now also, just very briefly as well, I've got to have a brief answer on this, but it's fantastic what we've got so far. You're talking about a new paradigm. What would you mean by that, as in your work is a new paradigm?
Okay, so it's the quantum switch. It's a high frequency switch. Reality is created through frequency. And so the old paradigm is based in a lower frequency, a more linear frequency, slower linear time frequency, which is really structured in pain and suffering. And it's this that fascinates me. So the new paradigm of work is about presenting the hard-hitting frequencies so that we can make that big shift into the positivity, into the good, into the love, into the life force resource to be able to contribute. So that's the new paradigm. It's about taking it beyond the me. It's about taking it beyond the control of someone else or elite power structure, and really taking back our own personal sovereignty so we can act and live and take action responsibly.
Okay, excellent. And why Egypt?
You know, Egypt is the source of light. It's the home and the inspiration behind so many of our society's structures. And in 2011, I was there with a group during the Arab Spring, and my group asked me to stay. And so we stayed during the Arab Spring. And the tour was completed on the 21st of March at noon. And at noon precisely, we filmed an incredible film of the new energies, the new realities, the new frequencies, and there were thousands of orbs firing out at my iPhone, and I captured a moment in time that was really a keynote in terms of the inspiration to work with others. It also was highly representative of the events that were taking place at the time. So we were working for planetary peace and healing for Egypt, and also for Japan, because there was a vast nuclear disaster at that time too. And it's interesting that I then went on to really base a lot of my work in Japan as well. So Egypt, I've just got back, is the source of many stories, and it's a source of inspiration for many of our society structures, and it's also an interesting source for our elite power structures, and it's a source for conspiracy. So I reckon that if we are going to beat conspiracy, if we're going to beat the elite power structures, then we're going to have to tackle it with really hard-hitting energy. And my background is design. I was trained as a designer, so my visual awareness is highly trained. And so I look at the stories. I say, for example, see the stories that are written on the walls, not as dreams, not as mythologies, but actually answers to the times that we live in now. And Egypt is such a stronghold for the respect of the divine feminine. And it's absolutely that. It's very simply, love is the missing key in terms of our society today. And if we bring back love, we bring back responsibility, and we resolve personal pain, and we begin to resolve collective pain, and we ignite awareness, and we stop being manipulated by the stories that we're drip fed by the media or elite power structures. And it's exactly that. And we move back into a place where we're aligned far more with the divine and a higher level of consciousness that can exist on a day-to-day basis. It's love that's missing. Of course it is. That's what the world is crying out for today.
Yes, and we're going to get into that as well. Where do you get your information from? Is some of it intuitively sourced in a sense?
The book is actually a combination of, I work incredibly intuitively, but then I also work backwards. So I do my research, I look at Egyptology, I look at the science of consciousness, the science of meditation as well. So the work I do is a combination of my research in Japan, because I also work with I also work in Japan with scientists on the nature of consciousness as well. So I don't take the work lightly, but I look at the stories, I look at the evidence that's left behind, and I look at how the stories fit our evolutionary cycle now. So, of course, some of it's intuitive, but Stephen Hawkins also works intuitively, and then he fills in the logic. And I think that's what we need to do. It's about finding the clues that the ancients left behind, and not seeing it as some sort of second-hand information, but really using it to change our consciousness, to inspire us, to see what happens when we apply those stories that are written into the walls of Egypt, ancient Egypt, and see how those stories can change us. And I've continuously found, through working with individuals, remember, my work is not just research, I practically work with people continuously through thousands of sessions and thousands of people in my schools as well. So the work delivers because I have the practical expertise, and then I also tie that up with the research as well. So it's a combination of many different dimensions.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did the ancients leave behind? And what was the purpose of the pyramids, in your opinion?
Well, for me, the pyramids are all about time traveling, and the ancient Egyptians left an almost a couture shamanism, a very advanced shamanism that impacted civilization, even civilization today. And so when one moves through very intensive alchemy processes, one can really free oneself to hit that quantum note, to hit that quantum level. And when we hit that quantum level, we move beyond linear time as we know it, and limitation as we know it as well. So we then are able to access the 0 point field. And the 0 point field is the field that genius uses, that gurus use, that sages use, that even to a certain extent psychic and clairvoyants use. And so this gives you the entry point into infinite information resource, but also infinite energy resource as well. So for me, the pyramids represent not only an incredibly powerful internal alchemy that can create shift and influence reality on every level of life, but it also brings about this next template. It's the next template of humanity. It's what we talk about as the next evolutionary cycle. And that template is one that the ancients left behind for as a drop of potential for every human being on the planet. And if we apply that Aku template, that cosmic template of man, then we ignite the genius in many more than a few individuals. And I do feel that that's what, say, for instance, the elite power structures have really used as their own. And what the ancients left behind was the pyramids as a clue for every individual potentially on this planet to step into that Aku template, that cosmic template of man, that next evolutionary template. And we need to ignite the genius back into individuals, ordinary individuals, so we can create miracles on a day-to-day level and take our power back. So the pyramids, and then the pyramid science that is also planetary, I also see the pyramid science as being essential for planetary healing at this time and holding planetary peace as well. And it really helps to ignite the grid, the matrix, the holding grid for the next evolutionary cycle, whether we have immensely intense world events or not. Change is going to happen, but the ancients knew it. Based on their ability to be able to step into the quantum, they knew that the future would serve up incredibly difficult world events. That's the choice and the free will of humanity. They could foresee that future because they could read the patterns of humanity and foresee the future. What you've got to remember with this work, there's a science behind it. It's logical, even within the context of readings. So the ancients knew how to read the patterns of humanity and knew where we would be in, for instance, the next evolutionary cycle post-2012. So the keys are there, the evidence is there for those who can see or for those who are willing to really see. And I think the pyramids, the ancient sites are really important to directly experience. I think earth power sites all over the world are important to experience because these sites are encrypted with the knowledge that the ancients knew we would need to pick up, we would need to activate at a later date.
Right. Well, we've spoken about a number of different strands and threads to your work there, and I was going to ask you actually. Well, do you need to go to Egypt, to be able to progress with the work that you do? And I'm guessing you don't, do you?
I utilize Egypt as an incredible energy resource, and also it does direct so much of the work that I do. So it's so much home for the work of light. It's so much home for the work of any ancient wisdom tradition. So Egypt for me is very much at the heart of the work that I do. If I'm working with individuals, the key is to ask individuals about what their purpose is on the planet, what their truth is, and how to help and facilitate individuals to really step back into their personal sovereignty. So freeing the individual is hugely key. It doesn't matter whether you work with me in Egypt or in Japan or in the UK. But I strongly recommend that earth power sites are so much part of the next paradigm because they really insist in the reboot, the quantum reboot that's required at this time.
Right. So is it possible that we're left to us as a gift, to be able to remember our true divinity of who we are and where we've come from, or the possibility of it?
As in terms of our origins?
Yes, as a soul, as in the terms of we're a soul here on a journey, and that we have ultimate power and access to knowledge of where we've come from and a purpose and all sorts of other information to live our life to the fullest, for example.
Absolutely. You've just spoken about Casey. Casey went into very deep self-hypnosis to be able to access incredibly profound information in terms of people's lives. It's about finding the consciousness technology. So we go back into listening and remembering and completing and resolving ourselves. And I do believe that's why ancient Egypt is such a source of inspiration for some of the key pioneers in the human potential field, Casey included, Blavatsky included, Steiner included. So you're looking at how we get to that place of completion again, oneness again. And it's certainly beyond anything that is duality driven. Often when we, for example, meditate, we meditate to shift out of reality. But what I'm really interested in is how we meditate into life, how we maintain certain consciousness qualities, certain meditation states, certain levels of awareness, and how we grow our consciousness, how we grow our awareness in our day-to-day life. So, for example, that which we deem as psychic is then utilized in our day-to-day life to create genius solutions within the context of our lives. So the work that I'm exploring is the notion of taking this wonderful history of work and then how we really anchor that into the day-to-day, because I'm very interested in personal power. I'm super interested in genius. I'm super interested in pioneers of change. And it's consciousness that's the key. And so the more complete we become, then the more we have this entry into the magic and the miracles of, the field that we actually love, the field that you love as well. So I'm super fascinated in not how we have a miracle of healing once or twice in a lifetime, or we have the evidence of spirit or divinity once in a lifetime. I've got a massive archive library of films and photography that consistently show up evidence of other dimensions. So I don't take the work that I do lightly. I see it as being something that is so legitimate, but I want to push it forward. I want to share that knowledge with ordinary people who have extraordinary lives, and how that can really take them into a life of happiness, but also a life where they can achieve more in this short time on the planet. So as we work into high frequency transformational experiences, as we move into high frequency awareness experiences, we do begin to remember, and we do then return to light. We return to completion. And then that takes us into knowing who we are and understanding the themes, the lessons of our lives, and exactly what we're here to do.
Okay, so do you think we all have a life purpose?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's part of the evolutionary key. Every individual on this planet is born with a particular truth, a particular lesson, themes and life lessons.
Yeah.
And some of us stay awake. Some of us are fortunate to stay awake and really work immensely creatively and sincerely and in a dedicated way with one's purpose. And I do believe that is the divinity key. I believe that's the spirituality key. That's the key for life. It's the key for high frequency. And then some of us come into this work because of life events, and then we face crisis and we begin to question, and whether it's individual events or whether it's world events, and self-exploration, meditative exploration, that personal exploration and asking the questions begins to unlock journeys, opens doors for ourselves, so we can take those steps towards understanding ourselves more authentically,
Yeah.
more truthfully. What you've got to remember is healing agendas fascinate me, but healing agendas crop up because we're not essentially listening to the truth that is deeply encrypted within us, and we're not listening to exactly what our purpose is. So every individual on this planet, and this is why I completely advocate purpose. Purpose is the key in creating so much inner peace. And when we have inner peace, we then enter into the high frequency and into the love, and then into all of those esoteric greats like telepathy and total resonance and miracles of healing. And that's what excites me, because then we also connect magnificently as a group of individuals as well. So then we're entering into the bigger purpose vision, the bigger picture vision as well. And I think that's also what these times are about. We're being asked not to work on our own as regards to this field, but actually to start to collaborate, to start to combine, to start to learn from each other as
I
well.
hope so. I hope so, because I see a lot of people in this field that do not want to work together.
I
Yeah,
absolutely
who
agree.
are
I'm
just in it for themselves, and they talk about oneness, and then there is enough and everything else, blah blah blah, but it's just really them.
I totally agree. There's a lot of BS, and that there's such a profound difference. I was talking about this in my schools this weekend with my students. We have so much information available to us, but it's not the information. It's important, but it's not as important as the direct experience. And it's going back to the authentic work, and that's why I have such respect for the greats that actually lay down this field, lay down this work. And in many respects, we've lost our way in terms of the incredible energy work that really does stand for contribution and collaboration and love and working together.
Yeah.
That's why I really do embrace the past and the pioneers of the field that we exist in. I think what's happened with so many practitioners or teachers is that often they teach too soon. And so, of course, they're going to be in it for themselves. That's what being an old paradigm is all about. It's all about having a selfish agenda rather than a selfless agenda. But taking yourself into that place where you can contribute and you can collaborate with people and you can kindly give to people, you have to do the work on removing your toxic stories. And it's the only way. I train a lot of healers in this work as
Right.
well. You can't learn healing as a skill, as something you buy in a weekend. You have to do that essential inner work, which gives you the entry to this magnificent field that should be magical and that should really provide the solutions for the people who come and see us as individuals who seek
Yes,
help.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
absolutely, and you talk about their, when you talk about the toxic self, would you say that we are? I don't remember being in the spirit world. I don't remember having a past life consciously, yeah. And I say to myself, well, that must
Yes.
be, my truth for that is that, I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to just be concentrating on this life right now because that's all there is in this present moment. But
Yes.
to embrace this work, you really have to have a truth that you are not a human being having you're a spirit, you're a spiritual person having a human experience, yeah.
You're a divine
Divine being,
being.
and I am, yeah.
You, but you know what? I'm also a realist, and my work is very much about using the time that we have on the planet super wisely. I have a message within the context of the work, and I serve individuals, and I just love seeing individuals live better lives, and I love inspiring individuals to live better lives, and I love providing sessions that provide really positive outcomes and hope for individuals as well. But what I see is that everyone can do this and everyone has value. I think that's what's really important, that we all have value, and we should also see people as having value as well, every experience. So my work is about existing within the context of all the stories, being savvy in terms of our spirituality. So it is real, and it is about living in this dimension.
Yeah. That's a very important part of your work, of course, and that's a great part of it as well, because the improvement of now is what really does matter, because
It's all about the lessons of this
yeah.
time, of this lifetime. And if you move into that quantum place where you can access, and I love this because once you hit high frequency, and the way that I work is about really working very precisely with the conscious mind. So for example, if you have a facilitator like me, I can take you into that place where the question is answered, because I work with that precision.
How do you get into high frequency?
Because you work through the Kundalini and you ignite the energy system. You ignite the energy system again. You reignite your life force again. And that's the basis of any good quality healing work, good quality channeling work, good quality psychic work, good quality healing work.
And to move into the higher frequencies, to get in tune with who you really are, and to get in tune with the answers that you're looking for, the happiness that you're looking for, which all lie within. But to access these, is that where you would access what you call the source codes?
What you have to be is totally in the now. You have to be totally real to then take the energy field up notch by notch. And the source codes are available up to us at number 7. But you have to crank up the energy field. So energy center 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you're building, but you're building from the foundations. So we spoke earlier about the pyramid, and that's basically what you want in terms of your energy field. So super wide base, really super strong solar plexus, second energy center, first energy center as well. So you've got those foundations in place. And then you hit the source codes. Boom. And that's how you're connecting with and integrating the high frequency, moving it beyond something that's duality, sometimes a little flaky, sometimes it's not going to hard hit. So you're not going to outmaneuver the toxic stories that you have inherited that create trauma, which is encrypted in your physical body. So that's what I've been interested in, looking at how we resolve those issues, how we get into our body, how we move beyond duality, and how we make it really real.
Right. And just briefly then, I should have asked this before really, but what are the source codes?
The source codes are your quantum resource. And really interestingly, in Egyptology, the Natura, which are the ancient deities of ancient Egypt, they were incorrectly translated, and they're forces of consciousness. So the source codes are templates or codes or keys of consciousness that are often depleted. So what I use the source codes for is to replenish, restock, reboot, upgrading the software. And when we do that, we bring people back to life. So it brings people back to life. So the higher the frequency, the more life we have. So this is about living rather than it being an exploration of spirituality, which is intellectual. It's about manifesting life and making life real and living real life experiences, loving life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in the beginning of this interview, you talked about world events and pushing us for change. I mean, that's the main focus of your work as well. When you see the events in Paris just over this weekend, how does that fit into the bigger picture for yourself?
It moves me in terms of how important it is for all of us to unite. The world events are really crying out for change, a change of heart, a change of heart in the way that we stereotype. And I feel that there's a massive common man, common humanity movement that wants peace. I was recently in Egypt and we meditated in Muhammad Ali Mosque in Cairo, and we prayed as a Muslim woman would pray, and every child who watched us pray actually came and shook our hands, and there was a celebration for it, and I feel so strongly that the world events that are depicted by the media are manipulating particular stories to take people into certain directions as well. The events in France are absolutely horrific and totally and utterly depict the wrong way for humanity. And it also, when we have wrong, we're also shown the right way. And so we need to find the right way to resolve this.
What would be the right way for a spiritually evolved person, as yourself as well, and as anyone watching this? I mean, for someone that's awoken to who they truly are, in a sense, that's what I'm saying. How would
what I find really, really important is we were talking earlier about authenticity and really holding with your metal, and I think that's one of the reasons I've continuously visited Egypt, even when it has maybe been advised not to go there. We need to be prepared to stand up. We need to stay authentic. We need to stay strong in our truths. And we need to use maybe meditation practice to hold our peace. And if every individual really holds their peace and holds their awareness, and I don't mean it's about bookending the beginning of the day and the end of the day with meditation and then thinking you're a great person when perhaps you're not quite. It's about really holding the space for peace and dignity and love and kindness and truth, and really living your life in those principles. So it's the real deal stuff, and living in that way actually creates a planetary grid of healing, and you can really do very positive change influencing if you sit and meditate and you work with groups of individuals who feel the same way, but you have to come at it without fear. And you have to come to it with a view and a perspective of generosity. It's, we have to know that these times are about the future and what we serve up now in terms of who we are and what we believe in and what we do or what we don't, and what we think or what we feel. We can't hide it. We can't fake it anymore. We have to be the real deal. And it's about being decent, I think. It's about going back to those values.
It's always been my dream. I think it is my dream, actually. Just even what you were just saying there, to have a news network that is a spiritual news network. Now, you imagine when those that Paris violence was breaking out. Imagine covering the news from a spiritual perspective. Getting some of the bigger names spiritual, even yourself on, to look at it from a spiritual learning perspective. It would just be.
I think that would be an amazing program to do, and I've just been hard hit energetically, so you must do it.
I must. Sorry.
I think you just got hit as well.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's. It would just be so different, wouldn't it, to be looking at it from a different perspective of. Because watching the media unfold as it did on the weekend, it was all, there's nothing nice about it, but it is also very negative. But these aren't nice subjects. But then again, there's another way of perhaps covering these subjects from a learning perspective as well, and then trying to getting as many people on to look at the healing side of it as well. How can we heal from that?
We opposites are something that we exist in, and so we have to deal with the facts. We have to deal with world events that are horrific, and we have to tackle them head on. And I think spiritually, if we're strong enough and brave enough, then we should actually be going back to those basics where people got together and, generated more work on a world peace level. Meditating together. I know Lynn McTaggart does scientific research on it, but it's, the research isn't enough. It's about really getting people together to actually do the work, not think about it.
Yes.
That's something you could do as a radio presenter. You could, generate the community to schedule together, to create a planetary grid. This is something that I do in Japan with my Japanese clients. It's so important that we're doing rather than,
I think
pondering or considering.
Absolutely. I think for my purpose, it's something different. I think, well, not different, but I think, I think my purpose is to bring people together, on a much bigger scale, and through a spiritual news network, which I want to somehow get formed one day. And it's funny, life is, you talk about purpose, and life's never a straight road, and when you really go with truly what you're here to do, it'll always take you down the right road.
Absolutely.
Options come to you that you couldn't see before.
And also we had really honest discussion, which kind of brought many gifts.
Yes. And I mean, I kind of get, ancient Egyptian celestial healing. Yeah, it's all about, like you say, bringing out entering into this higher frequency that we're all able to enter into, and going to these places and going back to maybe monuments we had past lives at before potentially, and remembering who we truly are and our divine purpose.
Absolutely, and also maybe seeing the bigger purpose, because there's the upgrade, and seeing the different ways in which we can create differently. Like, for example, you with a news network, it would be combining different elements together, and it is about creating solutions, genius solutions in new ways, and serving up reality in a new way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we have to push things beyond. There's one thing for certain: we're evolving. Whether the elite paradigms and the elite power structures dig in their heels or not, change is inevitable. And, that's what we're literally facing at the time. We need to come bang up to date, bang up to speed with universal law.
Yes, absolutely. And fear sells easier than love. But as you've also said through this interview, love is where we need to head towards. What would love do now? Is that a question we could ask?
Absolutely.
And when we ask that question, I guess it brings us into a fulfilled and destined answer, doesn't it, of what we're looking for in that moment?
You know, I'm gonna just reference Egypt.
Please.
You know, there's iconic figures in ancient Egyptian mythology, Isis and Hathor, and also there's iconic pharaohs in Akhenaten and his queen Nefertiti, and those templates really depict the love for oneself and needing to move through those very deep processes of alchemy to unlock divinity, but to also unlock love, because love is the way to divinity, of course. And then coming into a divine and sacred relationship. And I think that's the key within the context of our lives today, to not just accept something that's served up as a diluted version of love, but to really step into one's power and really love oneself, do the work on oneself, which is the healing process and the awakening process, so that you can enter into a sacred relationship with another human being, whether it's a partnership, a marriage, or friendships with individuals as well. So you have like the respect and the dignity and the honor there between people. You know, that then in turn has a massive impact on your children and the future of your children as well.
So true, so true. What about we all come across people who never look into these subjects, or maybe they'll, in their whole lifetime they'll never come across, they'll never go near them. What are they missing out on?
I often meet people in absurdly conventional situations. And maybe it's my energy, but for example, I went to buy a car maybe a month ago, and the car salesman, he kind of really resonated with me, and he started to talk about his relationship with his wife, and he was really talking about a twin flame relationship and how he'd never been with anyone else and he was only with her, and that she was the love of his life. And I have that energy that kind of unlocks people, and they speak to me. I think every individual, they have catalysts within the context of their life experiences. Everybody loves. So everyone opens the door to even a glimpse of magic in their lives when they fall in love, or they fall in love with something or someone. And it's that every human being has a glimpse. It's just sometimes people want more than the glimpse. They want the magic.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. That is, Tracy. That's absolutely true. Yeah, and it's up to them, with free will, whether they want to look into the magic or maybe just stick with the science.
Absolutely, but science is magic and magic is science because it's all logical.
Well, or some would say.
But you know what makes it linear and slower logical? It's frequency.
Right.
So when I get into my quantum work, my 5D work, it's the logical just gets speeded up, and manifestation gets speeded up. That's what miracles are.
Yeah, I could go with that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you do a number of tours then to Egypt.
I do.
And we can experience what we've talked about today and more, obviously, by going to these amazing ancient sites with yourself.
Yeah, and what I love doing is I love giving people an authentic experience of what high frequency work is all about. As you said, there are so many people who serve up the work and it's not the work, but I am an ancient wisdom keep her firmly in a modern body and in modern life. And I'm doing some really great work that shows some exceptional people the way to be even better and greater and more generous, because I'm working with so many pioneers who can create really positive change in the world.
And that's so very important. Okay, well, your book's been on the screen, with all the information, and it's come up a number of times, so that there's links on there. Is there any particular web links that you'd like people to go to?
TracyAsh.com.
Okay, well, we'll make. I'm sure that's gone up there as well. What would you say then, with the work that you've done so far, which is all many years you've put into this work? What would you say is one of the most important messages to the audience that you could give?
Keep going. It really is. The story never ends. It's just about unraveling the truth. Truth fascinates me. I'll never stop within the context of this lifetime. I want to understand the truth. I want to touch the magic.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to experience that. I don't want to have it just for me. I want to share it. I want to open the door and share my world with other people. And, once they're touched, then they're up and off and they do their own thing, because I'm not into dependency in terms of being a catalyst. I want to see people be free, and I want to see people really taking that risk to love the unknown.
Absolutely. Yes, because that's because you're not coming from ego as well.
Yeah, I haven't got time. I've got so many people to work with, and what I'll never do is, and I think this is important, is that the one-to-ones and the schools keep it real, and I would never let my teaching work go, because it's completely important for all of the theoretical as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keeps it real. People keep you real.
Yes, they do. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'd just like to say, Tracy Ash, it's been a pleasure to have you on, and keep up the good work, and we'll hopefully speak to you soon.
Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with your projects.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.